Hello. Yes, indeed. We are live. Good evening and welcome to Live Irish Myths. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. I'm your host for the next hour or maybe a bit more. We're going to be delving into the Irish past, talking about archaeology and maybe some myths and legends, some history and some other bits and pieces. You're all very welcome. This is a delayed live stream. Last week's was cancelled. This week's was postponed, just due to mainly me being a busy little bee. So apologies, especially to those who are waiting and expecting, and sorry for letting you down. But, you know, life is busy and, other things are happening, mostly good. And, so settle in. If you're watching on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel, if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. And like the video, like the live stream, and also ring the little notifications bell, which means that when we are live in future, you get notified. And also when we upload new videos, you also get notified. Happy days. If you're watching on Facebook, we are streaming on the main Mythical Ireland page, which is Mythical Ireland. There is a Mythical Ireland community group, but we are unable to stream there due to some difficulty with the crossover between the streaming software and Facebook. However, we are on the main page, and I think Auntie Jo, if she's here, usually shares the stream from the main page to the Mythical Ireland community. As always, if you're looking for more information about Mythical Ireland, the website is www.mythicalireland.com. And please do consider supporting Mythical Ireland with a monthly patronage, which you can do so at the web address that's scrolling along the bottom of the screen, which is www.patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. The best level, minimum best level, would be the Bronze Age level, and at levels above that, you get your name in the credits of my videos. So, among other treats. So, with that, we're diverging a little bit from the path here because we have been reading mostly over recent times. We've been reading P.W. Joyce's A Social History of Ancient Ireland. We're not continuing with that tonight. I thought we would take a slight divergence, which will involve speaking, among other subjects, about the late Professor G.F. Mitchell, or George to his friends, to Frank even. And there's a very good reason I'm speaking about him tonight. All will be revealed. Yes, I'm keeping some excitement for a little bit later on. Plus to update you as to a few things that are going on. Before we get to all of that, I propose to say hello to the people who have taken the trouble to comment. And of course, if you're watching the stream and you haven't been here before, whether you comment on the main Facebook page or on the YouTube channel, I get to see it all, and I share a lot of it. And I will say hello back if you say hello to us. First in the house tonight is Ali on YouTube, saying hello from sunny and warm Tucson. Well, it has been sunny this evening in Ireland. Can't say it's warm, though, and has been a showery day, raining at times. Ali, all the very best to you. Good afternoon to all our friends in Arizona, and, of course, in all of the rest of the states, and, of course, in Canada. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter tells us, congrats on your tour. Glad to have you back. Yeah, I'm glad to be back, although the tour was very enjoyable, really. Glad to have you back. It's a humid 79 Fahrenheit, 26 Celsius. That's about as warm as it gets here in the summer. I'm so jealous, in a way. Although I'm not sure I'd like it all the time. We like a bit of variety here in Ireland, you know. Tuesday Thompson is able to say, on this rare occasion, Happy Mythology Tuesday. So, not the usual Happy Mythology Monday, because we usually live stream on Mondays at 8 p.m. Irish time, which is 3 p.m. In New York and 12 noon in Seattle and San Francisco. And what's the V? Vancouver. Took a second to make that connection there. Tuesday Thompson, hello. Valentina Bernardi is saying hello from Glastonbury. Good evening to you, Valentina. Hope you're well. I'm just going to get a natural seating position here because I don't want to have to kind of lean up like that all the time. So if I just kind of naturally sit and relax, maybe I need to just adjust the camera downwards a little bit. Yeah, that's better, I think. Good evening to you. Hope all is well. Hope the weather is okay. Sorry, I skipped one. Margaret Hughes, is in sunny Birmingham. Hello from sunny Birmingham. Today, that is. As in, today it's sunny in Birmingham. You kind of have to say that when you're in Ireland, especially, don't you? And Britain kind of has similar weather, where you say, hello from sunny Drogheda today. Right now, and in a half an hour it could be raining. Lord Licorice, when the countdown was on, said 1 minute left. Get hyped. A very good evening to you, Lord Licorice. How do we address you? Is it Lord? Do you have a personal name? And I'm not sure if we've seen you before. You're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Hope you enjoy the stream and that you will come back and enjoy more. Lynn Foley is in El Paso in Texas. Happy to be back for the live stream. We're happy to have you back. By the way, I cannot express how beautiful your calendar is and happy it makes me. Brilliant stuff. Delighted to hear that, Lynn. Thank you for your kind comment. Wonderful stuff. Which reminds me, something else that I need to talk about. Just teeing up some things for when I finish reading the comments. Anyway, hello to all our friends in El Paso and in Texas generally. Mythical Ireland has a big pocket of viewers in Texas. Anne McCallum says, hello, Antone and all the mighty two. I hope everyone's in fine fettle. Antone, by the way, is Anthony in Irish. We're having a lovely, warm, sunny day. 21 Celsius. I think it was 12 here today, maximum. Yesterday, we had a tremendous amount of rain during a huge storm. However, with all the rain we've had lately, our grass is now as green as Ireland's, and all the trees, plants, and flowers have awakened beautifully. Yeah, and with all the rain we've been having, our landscape is also similarly verdant and lush. Sounds lovely, Anne, by the way. So much colour now. I love the spring. And that comment was pasted in twice for some reason, but that's okay, Anne. Even Homer nods, as they say. Hi, friends. That's Helen Hurst Shader. Hello, Helen. A very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us for episode number 276. Donna Ferrer is also here and is glad to be here in person. Is Donna there? Hello, Donna? Never mind. Stupid Irish humour. Donna, as always, you're very welcome. Hope you enjoy the stream. Sandra Boothroyd is in the house. Good evening to you as well. Fáilte Tranonawa. And Scott Doherty is here watching. Hello, everyone. Hi, Anne. And say hello to Bill for me. Astro is here. Hi. Hey, folks. Sláinte Astro. Johnny Wilson is saying a big hello from Dallas, Texas. I told you there was a big pocket of Mythical Ireland viewers in Texas, didn't I? Johnny, what a pleasure. Hope you're in great form. Steve Martinson is here. Hello, Anthony, and everyone gathered here today. Anthony, sounds like you have a head cold. I do. I've got sinus congestion and I can't smell or taste anything. So I may have to medicate before too long. Not feeling too bad. A little bit under the weather. Porrigo Comiskey says, I'll be doing a historical walk across the back of the wall here in Dundalk on Sunday week as part of the Legends of Louth festival. I presume that's just Legends of Louth. We will be visiting many ancient sites, including Cuchulain's grave, ancient passage tomb art, amongst many other sites. I hope you can make it, Anthony. What time is that at, Porrig? Let me just quickly check my calendar. Yeah, that depends on when it is. I do have something on in the morning into sort of early afternoon, so hopefully it's in the afternoon. But brilliant stuff, Porrick, and of course a mine of information and a gentleman to boot. It'll be brilliant one way or the other. Dill, DYL, on YouTube says, or rather, happy Tua Tuesday. Yes, I like that. Dill, not sure if we've been acquainted before, but you're very welcome. And thanks for tuning in. Alan Hoskins is saying hi, one and all, from a blustery Ballina Killaloe. Hope all. Alan, I was on the Shannon yesterday morning. You may or may not have seen a very, very brief live stream that I did. I was on Loch Ree on a boat trip to visit the islands and to have a look at Inchcleraun Monastery. Very enjoyable, although there was a couple of showers. And while we were heading south down the lake, the wind and the rain were blowing into my face, which meant it wasn't all that comfortable, but it was great fun. I'm seeing repeated comments here again for some reason. And Dill is saying hello from Utah in the United States. A very good afternoon to all our friends in that part of the world. Utah, brilliant stuff. Steve is saying, please provide your Patreon link. Thank you. Yes, of course. It is patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. But I am very happy to share it with you, Steve. Thank you so much. Thank you in advance. So just to mention that 3 ways of guaranteeing that you see Mythical Ireland posts, whether it be articles, photographs, podcasts, and video content, among others, is first of all via the website. Second of all, via the new email newsletter. So please subscribe. Every page on the website has a form. Become a Mythical Ireland insider. That's basically the email list. Twice a week now, the emails. The last few have been very detailed. It's like 1,700 word emails. And Patreon, of course, because social media, unfortunately, you may know I've been saying this for a long time, but the social media is very restrictive. If you share anything that is remotely judged to be even remotely advertorial or remotely commercial in nature, is suppressed so that most people don't see it. And even sometimes Facebook thinks that something is when it isn't. So the way to guarantee information is the website, the news mailing list, and the Patreon, because social media, to be quite honest, is hit and miss. Tom King is in the house. On Gowa, the smith of the Boyne Valley, who has been exceptionally busy lately. A great complaint. Yeah, so all good. Why is the logo where it is? It's not kind of high enough. Give me a second, please, see if I can adjust that. May take me a second because I keep forgetting logo. That one. Drag to move around. Aha, there we go. Great. Back to the chat. You missed my hello, Anthony Murphy. Desiree Riley is in the house. I didn't see it at all. And I'll be honest, I'm very disappointed. A very good afternoon to you, Desiree, and hope you're in good form. Thanks for joining us, of course, as always. And I hope Amadeus is in the house as well. The doggos have been fed, so it's possible they'll be looking to go out. You may hear them during the broadcast. I'm just checking back because I'm so disappointed that I didn't see your comment. And indeed, on scrolling back through all the comments, I still don't see it. So I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so... yeah, anyway. So this evening is partly dedicated to the subject of Professor Frank Mitchell. There's a very good reason for that. We'll get to that shortly. Glad to report. Well, part of the reason for the cancellations and the postponements was that I've been quite busy, and not just the fact that until yesterday I was on a 5 day tour of the ancient and sacred sites of the Boyne Valley, Eastern Ireland, and Midlands Ireland, with a wonderful group who are mostly from the States. One of whom was from Indonesia. Very lovely people, and we got to see loads, really loads. We packed a lot in. We saw Newgrange, and they visited the chamber of Newgrange. We went to Fornox. We went to Monaster Boyce. We went to Mellifont Abbey. We went to Hill of Slane. We went to the Hill of Tara. We visited Drogheda, my home city, which included a visit to the St. Peter's Church and Lawrence Gate and the old abbey. But we saw some of the murals, and I told them some of the stories. We went to Ishnock, where I'm delighted to say our guide was my good friend Simon Tute, and Simon runs Monumental Ireland, which is a website and soon to be smartphone app, uh, uh, detailing hundreds of Irish prehistoric monuments. A lovely man and very knowledgeable, and told lots of the stories, myths, and legends of Ishnock. And we tagged, as it were. I also contributed on what was a lovely day. That was fantastic. We went to see St. Bridget's Well in Kildare, not St. Bridget's Well in Kildare, but Kildare, which is the townland west of Ishnock. That was very special. We stayed in Athlone for a couple of nights. We visited Clonmacnoise on Sunday. And of course, Clonmacnoise is important because it's where the Laur na Hira, or the Book of the Dun Cow, as it's known, was written in the late 12th, late 12th century. And while we were there, we visited the nunnery, which a lot of people don't visit when they're at Clonmacnoise. And they asked if they could see a dolmen, so I took them to see Mehan Brie, or Mehan Boy Dolmen, which is just a few miles outside Athlone. And we went down a country pathway into a wild and untrodden land, and it was just magic. So I'll be sharing photos and video from that on the Patreon. So please do sign up as a patron if you're not already. And finally, we went up the Shannon, or down the Shannon, should I say, on a boat yesterday to visit Inchcleron, which is a monastery founded by Saint Diarmaid, I think. I think in the 6th century. I could be wrong about that. And Diarmaid was a friend or a colleague, if that's the right word, of St. Ciaran, who later founded Clonmacnoise. So, very exciting, brilliant. First time I've ever been on a 5-day tour. And needless to say, by the time I came back yesterday, I needed a bit of a rest and to unpack my brain, as well as unpacking my luggage. So that was fantastic. Tom King says nuns. They have no sense of humour. None. You heard about the chief nun who was always reading books. They called her None the Wiser. Yes. Wait, Amadeus is indeed waiting to hear his buds. Brilliant. Saibi, pardon me, I'm very sorry. And again, that's just because of I've had just wonderful fun over the last week or so. That's Simon in Limerick. Simon, how are you? And I hope you're well. Thank you for your recent email. By the way, thanks to everyone who has given Mythical Ireland a positive review on Google Reviews, something that our e-commerce people have been recommending, and got that set up and put out an email saying, and a social media post, would you mind? And lots of people did. Thank you very much for this beautiful, wonderful feedback. Liv Cross is joining us. Good evening from the Boyne Valley. Liv, where at the moment the sky is quite blue, but the weather, as I say, hit and miss here over the last while. Some sunshine, some nice sunny days, but not that warm, and sometimes heavy rain and showers. Movanwe has joined us. Good evening from Wales to you all. Sad news. My dad passed away suddenly last Monday. Oh, that's terrible news. He was a great artist and passionate about history and mythology. He loved learning about Irish myths as well as Welsh and would not let me take his copy of the Táin out of the house. He also loved a terrible dad joke. Well, what can I say, Mavanwe, except for sincere sympathies and condolences to you on what is a huge loss to you. And I'm sure everybody will join in that. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that your virtual friends of the TUA, the Mythflix, and the Mythical Ireland community are able to give you some comfort for what is obviously a devastating loss for you. So please accept my condolences, and I'm very, very sorry for you. Glad to hear about his passions, and especially glad to hear that he enjoyed the occasional terrible dad joke. But yeah, very, very sorry for your loss. Stephen Heaney is heading for Connemara in May. Any recommendations for sites to visit en route from Omeath and over there? Well, if you're heading across that way, I mean, highly recommended that you pop in at Ishnock in the Midlands. They do a wonderful tour, by the way. It's a comprehensive tour, and you get to see various sites and hear all the stories. And if you're interested in ecclesiastical history and church history, Clonmacnoise is also very nice. And of course, don't forget they have some high crosses there. It's very clever what they've done at Clonmacnoise. They've brought the real crosses indoors under cover to protect them from the rain and the weather, and created very, very accurate looking replicas outside. And maybe on the way west, you might be interested in stopping in at Rathcroghan Visitor Centre, which is near Tulsk. Rathcroghan, of course, associated with Queen Maeve, but a fairly substantial archaeological monumental complex dating from a huge span of time. I think you'd be very interested. When you're in Connemara, maybe just thinking a day trip or two, one to the Caja Fields in North Mayo. And you're not a million miles, you're probably about an hour and a half of a drive, maybe 2 hours of a drive up into Sligo for Carramore and Carrowkeel and Queen Maeve's Cairn and Creevy Keel and that landscape. Just some thoughts, but I hope you enjoy the trip anyway. Kerem Gogus has joined us. How are you doing, dear Anthony? I hope all is well with you. I've missed so many of your streams. Sometimes life gets in the way. Actually, I've missed some of my streams because life gets in the way, Kerem. So I know exactly how you feel. But come here, that's just the way it is. That is life. When we started this in 2020, almost everybody was locked down, and it provided a means of maintaining some sort of contact with people, and a lovely community grew up around it, and most people watched every day because it was on every day back then. Now it's much different. People have returned to their busy lives, so you can join when you can, and when you can't, you can catch up on the videos afterwards. So it's all good, A lot of people sympathizing with Mavanwe on the very sad loss of her father, which is lovely to see. Brendan has just joined us. What's happening, please? We're going down a bit of a rabbit hole this week entirely. I'm giving P.E.W. Joyce a miss for this week, and I'm speaking, among other things, I'm speaking about the late Professor Frank Mitchell, but there's a good reason for that. And lots of sympathy for Mavanwe, who says that he passed away very peacefully in his sleep, which is a great comfort to everyone. At the end of the day, you've lost him, but that will, of course, bring some minor comfort, I'm sure. Gerard's Walk says, Happy May Day Eve. Very good evening to you, Gerard's Walks. I wonder where you're walking right now, or are you seated at the desk? So tomorrow is the 1st of May. And I believe astronomical Samhain this year is just a few minutes past midnight on the 5th of May. And don't forget, if you're heading to Ishnock for the Bealtaine of Fire Festival, I will be giving a talk at Ishnock this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. You're very welcome, Stephen, and I hope it's of some use to you. Jacqueline Kelly Adams has joined us, and she's saying, "Hope all is well with you. I'll be in Ireland on May the 12th. Fantastic. Uh, I hope you have a terrific time, as I'm sure you will." Steve Martinson, thank you. Wow. Brilliant stuff. The daily lives helped me keep my head together through those times, says Astro. And the truth be told, as I've said on many occasions, they also helped me keep my head during those times. Liv is missing Ishnok this year. Not to worry. We'll see you again maybe next year. Apparently Barbara Murphy's in the house. Did I say hello to Barbara already? Did I? Barbara is out of the truck and didn't see sorry, Barbara. I'm not sure if we said hello to you already. If not, hello. And if we did, hello anyway. All good. All good. Jeannie Foley has joined us. Good evening, Anthony. Well, a very good evening to you, Jeannie. And I hope you're in good form. So last week, I can't say too much about this, but it's coming very soon. Myself and my very good friend Grant, Grant for the patrons. Grant is the one who did the filming and the editing for the patron specials with Michael Quirk in Sligo, the wood carving storyteller. We had such a wonderful day with him. And also the Michael Slavin interview. Michael, the author and the owner of the old bookshop on the Hill of Tara. Well, Grant and I were working on a short film I have to be careful because it's, shall we just say, coming up within hopefully the next fortnight and maybe less than, like, hopefully within the next week or 10 days. That short film, which is about a very major Irish prehistoric monumental complex, investigating its archaeology and its history and its myths and legends and its astronomical alignments, will be shown on a very major YouTube channel. And I think that's pretty much all I can say at the moment. When I am able to say more, I will say more, except to say that we are in the very final edits. The film is ready to go 95%. We're hoping to make a few last minute changes, a few last adjustments to it tomorrow, and then send it on. And as soon as I can announce when you can watch it, of course I will. No problem. Actually, Brandon, it's funny. I didn't, but I honor my word. And if a person has said, "Yeah, let's do this project together," and it's kind of, it's a shared thing. I'm just careful not to say too much too soon, as it were. But as soon as I can, of course, I will tell you as much as I can about that. Alan won't make Ishnok this year, but we'll be there next year. That's okay, Alan. I think you and I met at Ishnok last year, didn't we? Or was that the year before? I know I met the full Irish Gary, and I met Tom King. I can't remember her name, which is terrible. The lady, she was a very regular viewer for a long time. Haven't seen her lately. And we ended up, the both of us, chatting with her into the beyond midnight. We were having just a fascinating chat. What was that lady's name? Yeah, I can't remember. It'll come back to me. Yeah. And many others. And if I hate naming a few, because then you inevitably miss out names. So apologies if you met us at Ishnok and you didn't get a mention. So, on to the main subject. The library has received something of a boost. Miriam Eckhart, wasn't it? Thank you, Tom. Thank you. What are the conditions for admission? Well, you buy a ticket. That's really the only condition, as it were. And don't strip naked and assault anyone, or I'm not saying you would, but I'm just, don't bring any wild animals, don't let off fireworks, that sort of stuff. No, it's great. It's a great gathering. It's a great celebration. Huge sort of pageantry element to it, and a big sort of pageant or parade up to the hill after sunset for the lighting of the great fire. And it's wonderful to see the reinitiation of something that was happening there years and years and centuries ago, So ishnock.ie is the website where you get your ticket. Oh man, no nudity. I'm out. Lol. Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody will try it one of these years. Guaranteed. Yes. Yeah. So, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about the late Professor Frank Mitchell. So just in case you're sitting there going, what is this about? Who is this guy? Some of you may have done a Google search, which is perfectly okay. Professor Mitchell was one of the outstanding scholars of the 20th century in the fields, and he had many fields of study. So we would call him a polymath, and we might even call him a savant. He lived just outside Drogheda in Townley Hall, which is from where I'm sitting about 1.5 miles that way. He was an archaeologist, he was an anthropologist, he was a geologist, he was a naturalist, he was a social historian, an all-round fantastic scholar, wrote a lot of books and papers, was instrumental in some respects in the promotion and advancement of various aspects of studying the past. His leading field, I think, without having ever known the man, was geology. His work has helped us to advance our understanding, particularly of Brunabónio. He was friend and colleague to many Irish archaeologists. He was a leader or a tutor or a guiding hand with the likes of the late great Professor George Eogan. And that's why earlier on I mixed the names up. I said Professor George Mitchell. I was mixing Frank Mitchell and George Eogan. Many archaeologists, and any of them who ever watch this, will know exactly why that is. George Eogan was a protégé of Frank Mitchell and gave him great credit in numerous of his publications. If you've ever been to the National Museum of Ireland, when you walk in from the rotunda or the reception, the big domed circular reception area, the first display you see features, among a couple of objects, the Mel flint flake, which is a piece of flint that Professor Mitchell found at a quarry here in Drogheda in the townland of Mel, which is kind of between here and where he lived. And it's very important because it's one of the few tiny little shreds of evidence of Paleolithic activity in Ireland. So we have evidence of Mesolithic from about 9,000 years ago, about 7,000 BC onwards. We have, of course, the Neolithic from 6,000 years onwards, from about 4,000 BC to about 2,500 BC, thereabouts. We have lots of evidence of Bronze Age, Iron Age, etc., etc. But because of the Ice Age, we unfortunately are missing a lot of the evidence for Paleolithic activity, because a lot of the evidence was either scoured away by the ice or brought away by the melting ice, the melting glacial waters. The flint flake, Professor Mitchell maintained, had been worked by human hands somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago. It makes my jaw drop open. It belongs to I'm not exactly sure, is that Neanderthal or older? No, Helen Hirsch, he did not do the winter solstice presentations with Claire. That is Professor Frank Prendergast, who is an archaeoastronomer. Professor Mitchell passed away in 1997. He has been deceased for about 27 years. So it's possible, of course, as Professor Mitchell said, the Mel Flint Flake was not in its primary setting. In other words, it had been carried there among probably glacial gravels. The difficulty, of course, with all of that is that because the ice sheets came down in some cases from Scotland, the origin of the worked flake could be, flake of flint that is, could be from as far afield as Scotland. It's fascinating nonetheless. Professor Mitchell was also known for, as a naturalist and geologist, for his exploration of the geological landscape and the natural landscape of Ireland. And I've mentioned this before, but I want to give it a special mention again. So two of Professor Mitchell's best known works, among many, were his partnership with Michael Ryan, a wonderful, beautiful book called Reading the Irish Landscape. And if you're interested, and I know you always are, I'm always encouraging you people to buy books. And I know some of you are like, oh, not another book. And then you see a book and you just say to yourself, I have to have that. Published by Townhouse Dublin in first published 1986, reprinted 87, revised 1990, reprinted 93. This edition revised, published in 97, 2001, and 2003. So this is a 2003 version of what was originally a 1986 book. You should, I think it's probably out of print. Maybe it's not, and forgive me if that's the case, but certainly you should be able to get a second-hand copy of that. And just to give you an insight, this is environmentalism on a grand scale, and this is one of the what you call them endorsements. As an Englishman, it reminds me of Jacquetta Hawke's classic A Land. It has the same sweep, the same passion, even something of the poetry. For visitor and native alike, what a magnificent introduction to Ireland. And of course, that was one of the many wonderful traits of Professor Mitchell. He is known as a man who is very modest, despite his great intellect. Great, gregarious, and very great friends with a lot of academic scholars and non-academics. And I love the fact that he was able to write about subjects as diverse as anthropology and geology and naturalism, and to do so in a very interesting and human way. The other book that he's very well known for is The Way That I Followed, a naturalist's journey around Ireland. That was published, this one anyway, by Country House, and this one dates from 1990. So I presume first published in 1990, because there's no information about reprints or revised editions. And the title of that, and we've said this before, but just to give you as broad a picture of the man as I possibly can, it was based upon a book that had been published decades earlier by Robert Lloyd Prager, first published in 1937, and that is the book that's called The Way That I Went. So I think it was something of a hat tip or a tribute to Prager that Frank Mitchell called his book The Way That I Followed. In other words, sort of following in Prager's steps. In The Way That I Followed, Frank Mitchell, author of the Shell Guide to Reading the Irish Landscape, sets out to provide a companion volume to Lloyd Prager's most successful book, The Way That I Went, first published over 50 years ago. Armed with more scientific techniques than his predecessor, the author takes a continuous, if winding, route and wanders the length and breadth of Ireland, often accompanied by friends and colleagues, exploring the landscape as he goes and describing with infectious enthusiasm his discoveries and observations. I want to read an obituary published by the Irish Times on the occasion of Professor Mitchell's death in November of 1997, which I hope will give you a little bit more insight into the man. Barb Jordan is in the house. Hello, Barb. as I always say, better late than never. And what? Oh my God, we've been broadcasting for nearly 3/4 of an hour already. Wow. Mark Gordon is in Iowa. Stay safe from those storms, Mark. Hope you're in good form. We are booked, says Stephen Healy. I presume that's for Ishnok. Good. Don't forget to introduce yourself if you happen to see me. You may not, because there's going to be 5,000 people there. Dr. Frank Mitchell, 85, who died this week. This is, of course, published in November 1997, was an outstanding naturalist and master of many fields of scholarship. Quote, "I'd trade my soul with the devil in exchange for another 40 years, unquote, was one of his last and most repeated sentiments. The self-styled field man and former professor, whose modesty was matched only by his enthusiasm, enjoyed an international reputation as geologist, botanist, archaeologist, ornithologist, bird expert, geographer, social historian, and author. Earlier this year, he reissued his leading work, Reading the Irish Landscape, with his co-author, Dr. Michael Ryan, director of the Chester Beatty Library, when that was the one of the three that I showed you, Reading the Irish Landscape. Recently, he was involved with another of the many projects he had initiated on Valentia Island, County Kerry, a landscape close to his heart. For her, the island's northern cliff overlooking the Dingle Peninsula was one of his favourite places. Quote, "I could lie there forever," unquote, he told Eileen Battersby of this newspaper in an interview last March. Born in October 1912, Frank Mitchell was reared on Dublin's south side. His father ran a family business selling antiques and furniture, and his mother was determined that her children should receive a university education. Frank's older brother David qualified as a doctor and was former president of the Royal Academy of Medicine, while his younger sister Lilias became an artist and sculptor. Frank attended high school in Rathgar and initially pursued an arts degree at Trinity College Dublin before switching to natural science. He dated his interest in nature from boyhood largely through his mother's influence. Apart from family holidays in Rush, County Dublin, she also organised annual pilgrimages to Ballycorus to hear the cuckoo. When he was about 11 years old, he began recording bird life, and the Natural History Museum became one of his regular haunts. An early mentor was the naturalist Arthur Wilson Stelfox, a contemporary of another naturalist, Robert Lloyd Prager, the aforementioned, and grandfather of Dawson Stelfox, the first Irishman to climb Mount Everest. Mitchell also knew Prager, author of the classic Naturalist's Guide to Ireland, The Way That I Went, through the Dublin Naturalists Field Club. Such was the impression Prager left on Mitchell that the Trinity scholar followed in his footsteps to write his own autobiography, The Way That I Followed, Country House 1990. The breathtaking diary of one man's personal encounter with the environment took a winding approach to Prager's zigzag route, published in 1937. Dr. Mitchell's chosen field of study was quaternary research, and he was selected to work with Professor Knud Jessen of Copenhagen on the pioneering Irish quaternary geology in 1934 and 1935. He was junior dean in Trinity College Dublin from 1945 to 1951, registrar from 52 to 66, reader in Irish archaeology from 59 to 65, and professor of quaternary studies from 1965 to 1979. In 1957, he and his wife Lucy and their two daughters moved to Townley Hall outside Drogheda, where the couple ran the house as a student retreat and study centre. He was a senior lecturer and tutor in Trinity from 1967 to 1970. In 1979, he retired but served as Pro-Chancellor from 1985 to 1988. He was president of the Royal Irish Academy from 1976 to 1979 and was elected to the Royal Society in 1973. He was president of the Royal Society of Antiquaries in Ireland and played a leading role in the National Museum of Ireland, where he was a visitor for many years. He was also attached to the Royal Dublin Society and the Zoological Society of Ireland and was elected president of An Taisce. During that time, he received many academic honours, including the prestigious Cunningham Medal of the Royal Irish Academy in 1989. It was a reflection of the esteem in which he was held that the medal had not been awarded for 104 years. His energetic output of popular scientific works included The Irish Landscape, London 1976, The Shell Guide to Reading the Irish Landscape, Dublin 1986, Archaeology and Environment in Early Dublin 1987, and Man and the Environment in Valentia Island, published by the Royal Irish Academy in 1989. And that is it. So I think you're building a picture of the sort of wonderful scholar that he was. And he's a man who I didn't know him. Can't say I never met him, because it's just that I wouldn't remember too well. But I know that a lot of my archaeologist friends, past and present, would speak very highly of him and would have thought a lot of him. Anyway, you know what it's like here at the Mythical Ireland Library, finally getting round to making the point of the whole thing. Yeah, stick to the point, Anthony. So you all know that I like books and I read, and it's an important part of the whole Mythical Ireland journey, is that I could not have done any of what I've done without reading and learning from others. It's something. It's become something of a running joke among the Mythical Ireland community about the lack of shelf space, and new books, and where am I going to put them and all that. And from time to time, I tell you about new acquisitions, and sometimes that makes you all jealous. A lot of the time, you're like, "Oh, I like the look of that book. I'm going to order my own copy." So, for instance, just now, Helen has said, found a used copy of his book, ordered. There you go. I presume that is the way that I followed. No, reading the Irish Landscape, probably, is it? So there you go. And this is exactly what happens, I say, I got this book, and I show it off, and several people go, Amazon search or Google search or whatever it happens to be, Kenny's bookshop, Rex Fortenberry's in the house. Absolutely no need to apologise whatsoever, Rex. Great to see you. Hope you're in good form. Good afternoon to you. So, on a semi-regular basis over the years, and with increasing frequency, I must admit, I get reached out to. Kathy May is in the house. Been so busy with family, take care of my uncle's affairs after he passed away. Wanted to say hello on my lunchtime. Great to see you, Kathy May, and thank you for saying hello, and thank you for stopping in. What a joy, as always. So semi-regularly over the years, but with increasing frequency, I get people, friends, people that I know, sometimes family or relations, sometimes members of the wider global Mythical Ireland community or Mythflix viewers, and sometimes strangers reach out to me and say, hey, I have this book, or I see this book for sale and it's a good price, or whatever. And they say, are you interested? So if I look on my bookshelves, for instance, it shouldn't take me long to find something to demonstrate. These are old and basically antique books that were gifted to me. This one is Jeremiah Curtin's Myths and Folklore of Ireland, a beautiful hardback. This one, dating to, it's signed as a Christmas present from, it looks like Adeline, to Adeline from Mary Kay. Christmas 1890. Look at that. Can you read that? So I get and I'm so grateful. Of course, I'm so grateful because I literally have this happening semi-regularly where somebody says, "Do you know, I have these books, I have no need for them anymore, and I would like you to have them." And sometimes, in a lot of cases, they're not looking for any money at all. They just, perhaps I would give them a contribution towards postage or what have you. This one is Beside the Fire, a collection of Irish Gaelic folk stories, again in hardback. And this one dates from 1910, author Alfred Knowth. So these are examples of that. Today, out of the blue, sorry, just give me 1 second. I want to put these back because I don't want to put them on the ground. Today, out of the blue, a school friend reached out to me and said there are a certain number of publications available at such and such a place, and I'm not interested in them. And the first person I thought of when I saw them was you. And he told me who to talk to and where to go. And so I picked up several volumes today, and I'm going to talk about those in a moment. Adina Sparks is saying, "Hello there, hope you're all well. Hugs all round, thank you," and returned with thanks, with an extra for Evan and Chile if they're there. I didn't see oh yes, wow, sorry, Vicky's in the house. Brilliant stuff. Oh, tonsil stunts. Well, tell him I hope he makes a swift recovery. Hello to Evan and Chile, and of course to you, Vicky. Always a pleasure. Mariana Dunn is slightly late. That's okay. We're only just finally getting round to the main point of the broadcast. Anyway, I'm just catching up with. Yeah, it is very true, Brendan. The more you study, the more you realize how little you know, and it makes you want to study more. And the treadmill keeps moving along. To which Barbara Murphy says, "Definitely a treadmill I want to be on." Anyway, let me talk about my acquisitions. So be prepared. You're all going to be jealous. I'm just gathering them here for a moment. Don't worry, I haven't disappeared. If not disappeared, but not yet. So you will know that a lot of our, a lot of the works, a lot of the information gleaned from excavations in Ireland are published in the Proceedings of the Royal Irish Academy. So I want to show you some of what I've acquired today. I'm excited about these. I'm a total nerd. So this is the sort of thing that will get me excited, among other things, of course. Family occasions and achievements get me excited, but this is the other stuff that gets me excited. Yeah, so let me just show you. So this is Proceedings of the Royal Irish Academy, Section C, Archaeology, Celtic Studies, History, Linguistics, Literature, Volume 95C, Number 1, by Rose M. Cleary. And it is a report into the late Bronze Age settlement and prehistoric burials at Lough Gur in County Limerick. So just to say, a lot of, I'm not sure to what extent, a lot of these academic papers are the sort of, sometimes archaeologists will write books about monuments on sites and excavations, but a lot of the time these are the ones that contain all of the information and tables and appendices and drawings and diagrams and photographs of archaeological work in Ireland. A lot of them are available on JSTOR if you have a JSTOR account, but there's just something completely different about having physical copies of them. So that's number one. There's one or two duplicates. So just bear with me, please, and I think you'll realise why. In a few minutes, you'll know exactly why I'm particularly excited about all of this. I have a friend in Ireland right now, hoping she gets to visit Newgrange, just to say that it is very difficult at the moment to get tickets for Newgrange. They're booked out like weeks and weeks in advance. This is one that is extremely special for me. I got a copy of this back in about the year 2000 or 2001 when I was researching Island of the Setting Sun, and now I own my own copy, which is the paper that Professor Michael O'Kelly and his wife Claire O'Kelly wrote about Doubt, the only sort of substantial academic work about Doubt from the 20th century. The only major work, which includes, by the way, Claire O'Kelly was the one who detailed all of the megalithic art of Newgrange for her husband's publications, and here she has detailed all the megalithic art of Douth, which is fantastic. So this is really special for me, as far as I'm concerned. Very detailed drawings of the megalithic art. So I'm like, when I see this, I'm like, wow, brilliant, great, have to have that. Some of these are slightly less interesting to me, but I acquired all of them. I didn't leave anything behind. This is a 1995 paper on archaeological excavations at the Dominican Priory in Drogheda in County Louth by Andrew Halpin and Laureen Buckley. Laureen Buckley and Victor Buckley live in Drogheda, and I've known them for many years, and I would consider them friends. What's curious about this one is these are excavations that took place at Magdalen Tower in Drogheda, which had been established in the 13th century as a Dominican priory. And you know, my connection with that is that I went to St. Joseph CBS school, secondary school, and in my second year at that school, and maybe third year as well, I had my classes in prefabricated classrooms that had been built around that tower. And if memory serves me right, and I think I'm right about this, the excavations took place beginning in 1991, because the former school, we had moved out of the secondary school which was located in separate buildings on the opposite side of a busy street. St. Joseph's moved to a brand new school in 1990/1991, and the old school buildings were sold and were being redeveloped as a community care centre. And so they did excavations because they lifted all the prefabs and moved them and destroyed them, demolished them, and they were doing excavations. So these excavations took place at the place where I spent a couple of years at school. Heather A. King, Late Medieval Crosses in County Meath, and that's from 1470 to 1635. A subject I'm not massively interested in, but I am curious about, and several photographs of said crosses, some of which are located not too far away from me. P.C. Woodman and G. Johnson, excavations at Bay Farm, Carnlough, County Antrim, and the study of Larnian technology. So that's something I'll be reading at some point. Another one. Brilliant. It gets better, folks. It really does. I promise you. William O'Sullivan, should I say, and this is 1997. A finding list of Sir James Ware's manuscripts. This paper discusses the collection of manuscripts built up by the Irish historian Sir James Ware, and he lived 1594 to 1666 AD, and is particularly concerned to trace its descent through a complicated series of book sales and to establish, where possible, the present whereabouts of the manuscripts. Fascinating stuff. So that'll be an interesting read. This is a publication by Professor Mitchell, Frank Mitchell, Notes on some non-local cobbles, as in stones, rounded stones, at the entrances to the passage graves of Newgrange and Knowth in County Meath. And so some of said cobbles are photographed here. and you'll see the cobbles interspersed with the quartz on the redesigned facade of Newgrange. So that's interesting because, especially from a geological perspective, James O'Hara. Now, this is one I'll be honest, I've much less interest in. James O'Hara, Leibniz and the Jacobite War: Reports and Reflections on the Battle of the Boyne and Events in Ireland, 1689 to 1691. But let's just say it came as part of a bundle. Michael O'Connell, Early Land Use in Northeast County Mayo, the Paleological Evidence. So you can see a wide range of subjects. Under that heading, the section C would be where all the archaeological papers are published. But this is archaeology, Celtic studies, history, linguistics, literature. So it's a fairly wide area of study, but some of the papers, for me anyway, some of them very interesting and others a little bit less so. Kieran Parker, Paterfamilias and Parentella, the Le Poire lineage in 14th century Waterford. I presume Le Poires were Anglo-Norman, were they? Or maybe... I'll have to find out at some point by reading that. Charles Mount, a well-known Irish archaeologist, and this is again 1995, excavations at Killanully, County Cork. I didn't even open that today. Yeah, more interesting stuff. By the same author, Charles Mount. This is about Adolph Marr's excavations of an early Bronze Age cemetery at Keenog, County Meath. Keenog, by the way, is located just a few miles away from me here. And Adolph Marr is a very interesting character. He was the director of the National Museum of Ireland in the 1930s. He was of German extraction. He was a well-known and well-respected archaeologist. He seemed to, as I say, command a high level of respect. When World War II broke out, he went to Germany and he never came back to Ireland. And it later emerged that he had very major Nazi sympathies. So a bit of a controversial one. There's a book about Adolph Marr, M-A-H-R, and it's called, I think, Ireland's #1 Nazi or something like that. I haven't read it, but it is in my collection somewhere. Another one by Charles Mount, Early Bronze Age Burial in Southeast Ireland in the Light of Recent Research. So that's again 1997. So you'll see that a lot of these are 27 years and older. Are you getting the picture yet, folks? Anna L has joined us and is giving us greetings from Balbriggan. Nice evening. I know. It's a relatively calm, bright evening. The sun has obviously gone down at this point. But yeah, it's nice. Fingers crossed, for more. Cobblestones were a nightmare on roller skates. Yeah, if you skated on a cobbled surface, of course, that would be the case. Yeah. What a wonderful presentation, my son, says Paul. That's my dad. Dad, you need to hang on. You're going to enjoy the next few minutes. You probably knew Professor Frank Mitchell. I did. I never had the pleasure, I don't think, of meeting him. Anyway, we're getting closer to the moment of truth here. This one is Louise H. van Wingarden-Bakker. And believe it or not, this is a very well quoted paper because it is the final report into the animal remains from the Beaker settlement at Newgrange. Quite comprehensive. It's very heavy on technical detail, but my hope would be to read it and to summarize its contents. And this is what good journalists do, as my dad knows very well, that you read and then you summarize in layman's terms so that everybody can understand what's in there. Looking forward to doing that. P. David Sweetman, late Neolithic / early Bronze Age pit circle at Newgrange. David Sweetman died in the past year. I think he died in very recent times. Glad to have met him on a couple of occasions. And of course, if you've been to Newgrange, you will have seen, I hope, these rectangular areas marked out in the grass where he had excavated segments of this pit circle. So there's a plan showing Newgrange and the pit circle here. This area excavated by O'Kelly in the 60s. This area representing the cuttings made by David Sweetman. And just if you're looking for a photograph before they put gravel and cement in, this is what the area, some of the excavated areas look like. So another great find, and this one is Perret e Micheli inscriptions on pre-Norman Irish reliquaries, 1996. So one that'll be interesting. I am saving the best for last. And the primary reason for my excitement is, as we are going to be announcing very shortly. Elaine wants to know, when will you be adding a room to your house, Anthony? I know, right? As soon, I hope. A bigger house, a bigger library required. So this is where it gets really, really exciting. So I saw several of these publications, and I saw things on the front of them that made me realize something very special. And this is going to give it away if you haven't guessed it already. You seem to have the same issue as my wife, says Mark. Need more book space plus a reading room. Yep. Absolutely. Wayne Bird is in the house. Wayne, I'm not sure if I'd said hello to you. I don't think so. And you're very welcome. Hope you're in good form. And Barbara wants to know, how many of your kids are you going to kick out of the house so you can functionally store all? Let's not discuss that in case they get wind of it, Keep that between us. Gerard's Walks says, I have a small booklet, The Boyne Valley by Kenneth McGowan. I wonder what date is that from? Is that like a 1940s, 1950s publication? I have something similar. Anyway, on this one, which is by Mary Cahill, Mr. Anthony's Bog Oak Case of Gold Antiquities, published in 1994, I noticed some handwriting. And I read it. And this is what's going to give it away. I'll let you read it for yourself. To Professor Mitchell, with many thanks, best wishes, Mary. Yep, you've guessed it. We've been talking about him pretty much most of the evening. And this was Professor Mitchell's personal copy of this paper. But there's more. This one, which is by David Sweetman, and is a report into an earthen enclosure at Monk Newtown. This is about a rescue excavation, and the only excavation to have taken place at a henge at the Brunabonia complex, published in 1976. And look what's stamped in the upper corner. This was also Professor Mitchell's personal copy of this paper. And then we go to this one, which is by Brendan Smith, The Concept of the March in Medieval Ireland, the Case of Uriel. And when he says march, M-A-R-C-H, he's talking about what seems to be a piece of land that was a boundary between peoples or families. And this was published in 1988. And look what's in the upper corner. Oh, yes. Frank Mitchell, The Gardener's Cottage, Townley Hall, near Drogheda, County Louth, and a phone number. Another of his collection. And David Sweetman, another copy of the late Neolithic Early Bronze Age Pit Circle at Newgrange, County Meath, except for this time it's a signed copy. Best wishes, David. Signed by David Sweetman, presumably to Professor Mitchell. And one of the pièces de résistance, if you will. Pardon me while I'm zooming in and out like crazy with the camera, is volume 87C number 7, published 1987, a paper by Owen Grogan and George Eogan, Loch Gur excavations by Sean P. O'Riordan, further Neolithic and beaker habitations on Knockadune. I recognize this immediately. It is signed with best wishes, George and Owen, and I recognize this very distinctive signature of George Eogan's. he always signed books with his fountain pen, and a very, very distinctive way of signing. And I believe again that this is personally inscribed by Professor Eogan to Professor Mitchell, who was his mentor, and they were great friends. And I know that throughout his own academic life, Professor George Eogan, by the way, was the one who excavated Knowth beginning in 1962. That excavation lasting for about 40 years. The resulting breadth of work, published work from the excavations at Knowth, is astonishing. Huge volumes of work, and has given us massive, massive insights into Brunabonia. And finally, a book that seemed unrelated, but not unrelated at all, called Emerging Past, Air Photography and the Buried Landscape. So this is a book published by English Heritage and Cambridge University, published back in 1989, long before drones, but a book I believe I will have great interest in, because it seems to be about the role of aerial photography in uncovering aspects of the past, including monuments that were previously unknown about, mostly in crop marks. So it's a forerunner to LiDAR and drones as additional technologies in that regard. I suspect, although I can't immediately prove it, that this was another book that was part of Professor Mitchell's collection. And this one is by Professor Mitchell himself, and it's called Archaeology and Environment in Early Dublin, a publication by the National Museum of Ireland, published in 1987. So although only 4 or 5 of the papers from the Royal Irish Academy publications have identification on that suggests they were part of Professor Mitchell's collection, I think the whole thing was it's all come from the same source. And of course, the last date on any of those publications is 1997, which was the year that he passed away. So all I can say is it is an enormous honor for me to have come into the possession of at least some of Professor Mitchell's work. I suspect, maybe some of his friends and contemporaries will confirm this, I suspect that Frank Mitchell had a much more substantial library than I, which means that what I have received today is only just a tiny fraction of that. Regardless of that fact, I'm greatly honored and greatly excited, to be honest, about the whole thing. And one more, which I think almost certainly was part of his collection. And funny enough, there's a name that has been written here and then a sticker placed over it with marker, and it looks like it begins with F or A. I suspect this was Frank Mitchell's personal copy of the Quaternary History of Ireland, edited by Kevin J. Edwards and William P. Warren, and that was published in 1985. Among the contributors to this work were the late, great Mike Bailey of the Department of Archaeology and Paleoecology Centre in Queen's, Belfast, who I had the wonderful pleasure of having a very interesting and long conversation with during the lockdowns as part of our Live Irish Myths in Conversation series, a discussion that you can see on the YouTube channel, and also which there's a quite a nice long report about on the Mythical Ireland website, which I will copy in as a link so you can follow up and read. And that's called, that article is titled Tree Rings and Catastrophes, Irish Myth, Archaeology and the Fascinating Revelations of Dendrochronology. And of course, one of the other contributors was Professor G. Frank Mitchell. So again, I've no doubt that this was another volume in his library and in his collection. And the 5 of which, of course, which caused me the great excitement, were the ones that were either signed to him by George and Owen and Mary, or the ones that carried his address or his personal stamp on them. I just think that's fantastic. So yeah, they're in good hands. They will be added to the Mythical Ireland Library, and a lovely way to honour, not just to honour the great work that Professor Mitchell did, but indeed to attempt in some way to carry it on, even though I wouldn't be worthy of tying his shoelaces if he was around today. A much greater scholar than I will ever be. And yeah, lovely for me to make that connection. I'm also very lucky to own, as I previously told you, a copy of Edmund Hogan's Onomasticon Gaelicum, which had been in the private ownership of the late Thomas Kinsella, who was whose translation of Toynbee Culnge is probably one of the most popular and best-selling books based on Irish mythology. Sweetman appears on the deeds of my college. It was a holiday place for Sweetman in the early 60s, I wonder. I don't know the connection there, but possibly. And of course, Sweetman is such an unusual surname, you know. Barbara Murphy, you are absolutely right. This is a dream score of books. Yes, indeed. Did you make any notes inside them? Not that I've so far seen. There was one hang on. Let me just wondering, is this handwritten or is this copied? On one of the ones that I showed you there. Let me just have a look here. Is that handwritten or is that copied? It looks to be handwritten. That looks to be. So there's a note here written under one of the photo captions that is handwritten in black pen. Maybe if any of his colleagues and former friends are watching, they might confirm whether that is Professor Mitchell's handwriting. He's saying that the length of the blue scale, presumably in this photo, is 30. Is it 30 inches? I don't know. Oh, God. They definitely don't need to see that, Anthony. Take your ugly face away. Yeah. So I will be, of course, looking through them. But, yeah. Just a happy bunny time. What can I say? Let me just check. I always feel like I'm a true part of history when I get to be the caretaker of books owned by previous and more famous archaeologists. Yeah, I feel quite honoured to have come into that collection today. I'm so glad they found their way to you. What a great addition to your collections. Yes, indeed, as I am too, Desiree. And thanks to my friend Rory for giving me the heads up. Brilliant. You could add a label into those publications noting the original owner. Yeah, I think so, because, you know, I won't be around forever either. I'd like to think of the possibility that I'm hoping it's not going to be for a long, long time into the future. But after I'm gone, it would be lovely if this library could become part of maybe a reference library in a local library facility or a cultural facility where people could access, and not just that they don't just sit on shelves gathering dust for the rest of the time. Thank you, Anne McCallum. Yeah, I'm the sort of person. Some of that is reference material. In other words, I may not read it for many years. It'll be sitting there, but some of it, absolutely. The Sweetman stuff, the Knowth paper by the O'Kellys, the Sweetman report into the Monk Newtown Henge, all of that stuff. I'll just gobble that up, you know. Treasures. Yeah, so if there are any questions or comments or anything else you'd like me to discuss, and hang around for a little bit, because, you know, I'm conscious of the fact that we haven't done a live stream since yesterday, 2 weeks ago. So it's been 15 days, which is too much, I know. You should be around for ages, says Brendan, unless you get stuck down a rabbit hole. Yeah, I know. Sometimes we go down, we stick our head into the rabbit hole and have a look down and go, yeah, And sometimes we crawl down in there. The whole lot of us, you know. Yeah, good idea. And there's Barbara saying, passed into the collection of Anthony Murphy from the collection of Professor F. George Mitchell. What a beautiful idea, Anthony. I presume Desiree is talking about, you know, the library being something that can be accessible to future generations of future mythical Irelanders, future archaeologists, future mythologists, future historians, people interested in Ireland's wonderful, incredible past. Yeah. Rex is asking, how was the 5-day tour? I did talk about it. So as soon as we're finished broadcasting, the whole episode, of course, is available to rewatch. I'll summarize it very quickly in saying that we visited lots of sites, including stuff that wasn't on the agenda or on the itinerary. Wonderful group, wonderful 5 days. Great fun, very inquisitive, lovely people, great sense of humor. Some of them got into punning and bad joke competitions with me. Can't say that I won those, because do you win if you're the best, or do you win if you're the worst? Any field trips in the future? Evan has been asking about the dragon tree. Remind me, Vicky, what's the dragon tree? I shouldn't need reminding, but just remind me what that is, because if I can do something, I will do it, as you know. It's nice to talk about other people's book. How about your own books? Yeah. Because I think I've spoken enough about them, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It just sounds like, you know, self-promotion and all that. I talk about them, of course, when they're being printed and published, which reminds me, the Fornox monograph is still being held up by photography. So if you've pre-ordered it, all I ask is just be patient. It's probably 92% finished. And I can't finish it until I get the photography. So, you know, look, you know where I live anyway, you know. It was a tree that looked like a dragon near where you are. I know I have a vague memory of this, but I just don't know where I was. Was that in a live stream, was it? Yeah. Anyway, the Bell Tom King is away there in the forge as we've been. He's been hammering away as we've been chatting away. I hope you've enjoyed that. Always a pleasure to share, of course, and always a pleasure to have you along for the journey. Any drone trips planned? Asks Rex. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be getting the drone up. I'm just not getting the time, but yeah. I must remember to actually bring it with me, because sometimes unplanned, spontaneous flights are the ones like Dronehenge. Well, wasn't that much planning, and the logboats, you know, and that ring fort I found out at Fenor near Slane. You know, just throw it up into the air and see what you see, and you never know what you're going to find, you know. Interesting theory on dad jokes. Best or worst is the winner. Yeah. By the way, I told you that to get a job as a carpenter, I had to demonstrate my skill with a piece of wood. Needless to say, I nailed it. And finally, to those of you who say that I'll never achieve anything because of my procrastination, just you wait. And with that, I will say goodnight. It's not dark, it's twilight, and we're into that period of the year. We're shortly coming up on Bealtaine. We're into that period of the year where the days are long and the nights are short. A part of the year that I really love. And let's enjoy it while it lasts, because, you know. And let's hope for some nicer, warmer, sunnier weather and a little bit less of the rain, you know. Oswald tells us, Mythical Ireland, I was working at a bakery, but I didn't make enough dough. So I took a job at the bank, but it didn't make sense. Don't blame me, says Brendan. Night, everyone. Yeah, I told you before, you should not encourage me. The main thing is not to encourage it, you know. And I told you before, I think that a dragon wouldn't explode, but a dino might. Yeah, and I definitely told you the one about I'm thinking of getting a pet, a pet animal to bring on my jogging sessions. I was thinking specifically of getting a turtle. Yes, we need sun, says Si. Yeah, I know, right? A little bit of the old vitamin D and all that, you know. Definitely. Desiree, thank you. Don't think we heard the pooches since you mentioned typical. And the time you're not expecting them, of course, they'll be making loads of noise. Coda especially settled down. He's what is he now? He's over 4. So what is that? 4 sevens, 28. He's heading into his late 20s in adult in human terms. He seems to be sort of beginning to settle down a little bit. You know, he's not just as wild and as excitable as he used to be. Anyway, thank you, all of you, for joining us. We'll be back, all going well, next Monday. We might return to P.W. Joyce, but I know that because that's a big work and we've been doing lots of episodes on it, sometimes it helps to punctuate it with other things. We might do an episode around Bealtaine if there's some stuff to talk about. There always is. And I will keep you posted about other things, such as the upcoming film that I mentioned earlier on, and anything else like that that needs announcing. Please do remember to sign up for, if you're not already signed up for the emails. There, I'll give you the address where you can sign up. The email subscription panel or form, you just put your email address and click the arrow, is on every page of the website, but I've just shared the link where you can go directly to it. There's a page on the website that just has the subscription form for the emails and nothing else. So go there and subscribe to the email list, because, as I explained earlier, social media is a very hit and miss way of getting information and pictures out to people, because in a lot of cases the information does not get shared by Facebook. It doesn't get delivered by Facebook on the other side, you know. What? On a Tuesday? Happy Bealtaine, says Ulla. Yes, indeed. And Ulla, I don't think we said hello earlier on, so hello. And it's basically hello and goodbye, really, all in one. Stay safe and look after yourself, says Brendan. And the same to you and to everyone. Mariana says, take care. Everyone, hope you have nice weather. Thanks, indeed. Who else? Kathleen Gallagher saying, TKU. Thanks also. Good sport, says Tom. Thank you, Anthony. And friends of the tour, stay safe out there. Time to wrap up the fire. Home to bed with you, you know. You need your beauty sleep, Tom. I'm not saying you're ugly. I'm just saying, you know, we all need it, especially at our age, you know, us middle-aged men, you know. It's so lovely to join you all this evening. That's Mavanway. Life has been turned upside down over the last week, but like in the times of COVID, Live Irish Myths has brought entertainment, warmth, and inspiration to distract from the difficult times. Thank you all very much. Well, again, my sympathies, Mavanway, and glad to have had you along under the circumstances. And the very, very best to you from all of us. Right, I'm going to head on. All the very best. And as usual, all that remains for me to say at this moment is Ichawa, Chulasov, Slongafol, which means good night, sound sleep, bye for now, and most importantly, Tog Gubage. Say it right, Anthony. Tog Gubage. Take it easy. See y'all. Bye bye.